For 17 years, Formula One moved on without Toyota. The biggest car company in the world sat on the sidelines and watched. Then, almost overnight, the logos started showing up. First on a Haas, then on the team's name itself. Now there are whispers up and down the paddock about something much bigger coming for 2027. A full return. Their own car. Maybe even their own engine. And if even half of it is true, the whole grid is about to change shape. Here is what makes this one different from every other silly season rumor. Most paddock talk is about drivers. A seat here, a contract there, a teenager pushing an older driver out of a car. This is bigger than a driver. This is about a car maker. And not just any car maker. Toyota sells more cars than almost anyone alive. It races on every continent, in every kind of racing that matters, and it wins. Le Mans, over and over. The World Rally Championship, year after year. Racing trophies stacked on a shelf so full it is almost embarrassing. There is only one stage where Toyota does not have a team of its own. The biggest one, Formula One. So when the most successful name in racing starts inching back toward the one grid it walked away from, people pay attention. The question is not whether Toyota loves racing. It clearly does. The question is how far it is willing to go this time, because a full Toyota works team is not a small story. It is the kind of thing that bends the whole sport around it. And right now, the signs are all pointing one way. What is actually real is where this gets strange. On the 11th of October, 2024, at the foot of Mount Fuji, on a track Toyota owns, the company said it was coming back to Formula One, not with a car, not with an engine, with a deal. Toyota Gazoo Racing, the racing side of the company, signed a deal to share its engineering with the smallest team on the grid, the American team owned by Haas. By the very next race, the United States Grand Prix in Austin, Texas, the Gazoo Racing logo was already sitting on the side of the car. On paper, it looks small. Toyota would help design and build parts. It would lend its engineers, its factories, and its know-how. It would even put a simulator at the Haas base in Banbury, England. In return, Haas would teach Toyota how a modern Formula One team actually runs and give Toyota's young drivers and engineers a place to learn the trade. A handshake between a giant and a tiny team. And the strangest part is that the smoke had been drifting around for a while before any of it became official. Months earlier, the signs were already there. Toyota was circling the Haas team, looking to build parts, eyeing its old wind tunnel back in Cologne, Germany. Each report came with the same careful note attached: no engine, just a deal. Each time, the story was waved away as just talk. And each time, another sighting followed. By the time the cameras rolled at Mount Fuji, the rumor everyone had been brushing off turned out to be real. And even that was not the beginning. Go back further, to 2023, and Toyota's name was already being whispered next to Formula One teams. Its name was linked to McLaren, with a Toyota-backed driver sitting in as a reserve. There was chatter about the Sauber squad. None of it was ever confirmed. All of it was denied. And yet the pattern never stopped. For years now, the same name keeps popping up next to the same sport, no matter how many times everyone says there is nothing to see. Smoke that keeps coming back usually means someone, somewhere, is still holding a match. But look closer at that deal and a different shape starts to appear. Think about that for a second. A company the size of Toyota does not put its people inside a rival's factory, share its simulators, and bolt its logo onto the body of the car just to be helpful. You do that when you want to learn the building from the inside. And by the end of 2025, the small little deal had grown teeth. On the 4th of December, 2025, Toyota became the team's title sponsor. The name on the entry list changed. It was no longer just Haas. It was Toyota Gazoo Racing Haas. Toyota's name now sat where the team's old backer, a money transfer company, used to be. A sponsor whose deal was worth a reported $20 million a season. The driver program got a Toyota badge. 14 days of private testing went to Toyota-backed names. The tiny team was starting to look a lot like a Toyota project, wearing someone else's racing license. And that is the part that still does not quite make sense, because a company that only wants a quiet little deal does not usually put its own name above the door. To understand why this matters so much, you have to understand what happened the last time Toyota tried this. And that story is still the ghost hanging over everything happening now. Rewind to the start of the century. Toyota did not ease into Formula One. It kicked the door down. In 1999, it said it was shutting down its rally and long-distance racing programs to throw everything at one goal: Formula One. It was so eager and then so careful that it pushed its first race back by a year, giving up an $11 million deposit in the process before it had even turned a wheel. It built its own team from scratch, in Cologne, Germany, miles away from the group of British factories where almost every other team lived. It would build its own car and its own engine, all in-house. No shortcuts, no customer parts. The full works effort, the hardest and most costly way to do it. The money that followed was huge. By the end, Toyota was spending around $450 million a year. Across its whole run, from 2002 to 2009, the total cost climbed past $3 billion. That is the kind of number that makes accountants cry. It was, by far, one of the biggest budgets the sport had ever seen. And here is what all that money bought: 139 race starts, 3 pole positions, 13 podium finishes, and wins, 0, not a single one. $3 billion, 8 seasons, and the top step of the podium never once had a Toyota driver standing on it. They threw serious names at the problem too. Mika Salo and Alan McNish in that first season, Olivier Panis and Cristiano de Mata after them. Then Ralf Schumacher, brother of the greatest of his time, brought in on a paycheck so large it became a joke around the paddock. Jarno Trulli, fast and unpredictable, who stayed for years. Timo Glock, and in the final season, a young Japanese rookie named Kamui Kobayashi, who showed up as one of the most fearless overtakers on the grid. Hold on to that last name. It is going to come back around in a way nobody could have guessed. Their best year was 2005, when they finished 4th in the championship. That was as good as it ever got. They came painfully close more than once. In 2009, Jarno Trulli put the car on pole in Bahrain, and Toyota locked out the whole front row. The win was right there. A wrong tyre call threw it away. Glock grabbed a second place in Singapore. Trulli grabbed another at Suzuka, in front of the home crowd. That was the story of the whole project. The speed would flash, the talent was real, the budget was endless, and somehow the win never came. There is a reason this story is still talked about today. It became the warning story of the whole paddock. The richest team that never won, proof that you cannot simply buy your way to the front of Formula One, no matter how big your company is. And then it ended, almost overnight. On the 4th of November, 2009, just 3 days after the last race of the season in Abu Dhabi, Toyota said it was quitting. A worldwide money crisis had hit hard, and the company was staring down its first yearly loss in 70 years. The decision was brutal and final. They had already built most of the next year's car. It never turned a wheel in a race, and the part that has haunted the team ever since is colder still. Even a win would not have changed the decision to walk away. Sit with that for a moment. After $3 billion and 8 years of chasing it, even a win would not have saved the project. That is how completely Toyota walked away. So when that same company starts creeping back onto the grid, the obvious question hangs in the air. Why would anyone go back to the place that cost them $3 billion and gave them nothing? And to answer that, you have to look at what has changed about Formula One itself. Because the sport Toyota walked away from in 2009 is not the sport sitting in front of it today. The single biggest change is money. Back then, the spending had no limit. Teams burned through hundreds of millions a year with no cap and no brakes. That is the world that swallowed Toyota's $3 billion. But Formula One now runs under a strict budget cap. Teams can only spend so much, full stop. The wild spending that shaped Toyota's first run is gone. Suddenly, the maths that made no sense in 2009 starts to look very different. And there is something else. Everybody is coming back. This is the part that turns a rumor into a pattern. For 2026, the sport welcomed an 11th team for the first time in years. The American giant Cadillac, backed by General Motors. To get through the door, they agreed to pay a fee of $450 million, more than twice what the old price would have been. General Motors is even building toward its own engine. Honda is back as a full car maker, powering Aston Martin. Audi has arrived as a full works team, taking over the old Sauber team whole. Ford is back, tied to Red Bull. You would think someone would have noticed the pattern. Everyone did. The biggest car makers on Earth are pouring back into Formula One at the exact moment Toyota happens to be quietly building itself back up inside a team. That is no accident. Now, here is the detail that sharpens the whole picture. When the sport locked in its list of approved engine makers for this new era, Toyota was not on it. Mercedes, Ferrari, Honda, Audi, the Red Bull and Ford project, Alpine. Those were the names that signed up to build engines. Toyota stayed out, and at first, that looks like the end of the story. But flip it around. Toyota did not miss the deadline. It chose to sit this round out. It is not aiming at this set of rules at all. It is aiming at the next one, because the next big reset, the next clean slate of engine rules, is the moment a new team can arrive without 10 years of catching up to do. That is the target. Not now. The next door. If you are enjoying this breakdown, take a second to subscribe. This channel goes deep on the stories shaping the next era of Formula One, and there is a lot more coming as this one builds. By 2026, the picture had sharpened even further. Toyota is not just watching the car maker rush from the outside, it is already inside a team, already running drivers, already building parts. Everyone else had to start from nothing, or buy their way in for hundreds of millions. Toyota has spent the last 2 years quietly putting the pieces together while paying a small part of that price. When you lay it out like that, the deal with Haas stops looking like charity and starts looking like a runway. And one piece of that runway has been sitting in plain sight the whole time. When Toyota quit in 2009, it never tore the operation down. The huge factory in Cologne, Germany, the same one that built those winless cars, kept running. Today, it is the beating heart of Toyota's racing empire, the place that builds its Le Mans cars and its rally machines. A full-size Formula One factory, wind tunnel and all, that never stopped breathing. Most car makers dreaming of an entry would have to build all of that from nothing, brick by brick, over years. Toyota already owns it, warmed up and waiting. The hardest and most costly part of starting a Formula One team is the part Toyota never actually gave up. The walls, the machines, the wind tunnel, and the people who still know how to build a fast car. All of it kept turning over quietly, long after the last Toyota Formula One car stopped racing. The team folded, the factory never really did, and the people Toyota has been quietly placing into that program tell their own story. Ryo Hirakawa, a Le Mans winner already linked to top teams as a reserve. Ritomo Miyata, a Japanese champion being prepared for the big stage. Sho Tsuboi. And there, back in the fold, is Kamui Kobayashi, the same fearless rookie from Toyota's final season in 2009, now a senior name helping run the comeback. The driver who was there when the dream ended is helping rebuild it. You could not script a full circle like that. And then there is the part of this story that has nothing to do with spreadsheets. It is personal. Akio Toyoda, the man who pulled the plug in 2009, is the same man in charge of the company's racing heart today. He is not a far-off boss who sees racing as a marketing thing. He races himself. He built Gazoo Racing from a small passion project into the machine that now rules Le Mans and the World Rally Championship. Look at what that machine has actually done. After years of painful near misses at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, Toyota finally broke through in 2018, then simply refused to let go, winning the great long-distance race again and again in the seasons that followed. In the World Rally Championship, it has piled up carmaker title after carmaker title. In 2018, then again across 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, almost everywhere it puts its money and effort, it eventually wins. Toyota has won the 24 Hours of Le Mans again and again. It has taken rally title after rally title. The one trophy missing from that shelf, the one that got away, the one that cost $3 billion and broke the project, is Formula One. For a man like that, an unfinished story is the most dangerous thing in the world. The pieces are all in place. And history says Toyota does not stay on the sidelines of a championship it cares about for long. Now here is where it gets really interesting, because every time this rumor pops up, Toyota tries to shut it down, and every time, it only seems to grow louder. When the Haas deal was first announced, the company was crystal clear. There was no plan to supply an engine, no plan to run a works team. The best choice was simply to work with Haas and grow people. Akio Toyoda himself stood in front of the world's reporters and practically begged them not to run the headline that Toyota was finally returning to Formula One. People thought that settled it. They were wrong. Because actions kept saying something the official statements did not. The logos kept spreading. The title sponsorship arrived. The drivers kept coming. At the team itself, the line never changed through the end of 2025. Takeover questions got batted away. The whole point, the message went, was simply to grow people, even as the team turned into something wearing Toyota's name from front to back. And then came the detail that lit the fuse. Toyota's own engineers were studying the tech for the new era, slowly moving in that direction. That is not the language of a company that has closed the door. That is the language of a company keeping it propped open, watching, waiting for the right moment. Pay attention to this next part, because it explains the timing of everything. Formula One is heading toward another big rule change. A reset of the engines, a reset of the rules, the kind of clean slate that comes along once in a generation. Those moments are exactly when an outsider can walk in and race on even ground, before anyone has built a 10-year head start. The whispers about 2027 are tied straight to that opening. The idea is simple. Toyota is not learning the building for fun. It is learning the building so that when the door swings open, it is ready to walk through it as a full team, on its own terms, this time built to win. There is a louder version of this story too. Look at the Haas setup from a certain angle, and it looks like a team being quietly set up to be sold, with Toyota the obvious buyer waiting. The team's owner insists there is no plan to sell. He came into Formula One to race, not to sell a team for profit. But saying no, as we have already seen, has a strange way of feeding this fire rather than putting it out. And the sport itself is leaving the door wide open. There is open hunger for a 12th team, for new car makers from China and beyond, and the next set of engine rules is already being planned. The grid is growing, not shrinking. For a car maker with Toyota's money and Toyota's grudge, there has rarely been a better moment to walk back in. Stack it all together, and the shape becomes hard to ignore. A car maker with endless money, a budget cap that finally makes the sport possible impossible to survive. A wave of rival car makers flooding back in. A team already painted in Toyota's colors, running Toyota's drivers, built around Toyota's engineers. A chairman who lives and breathes racing and never got the one trophy he wanted. And a rule change coming that hands the perfect opening to anyone bold enough to take it. Everything is in place. Toyota just has not said the word yet. So where does that leave us? On paper, Toyota is an engineering partner and a sponsor, nothing more. On paper, there is no works team and no engine on the way. That is the official story, and the company has stuck to it. But the gap between what Toyota says and what Toyota does has been getting wider for 2 straight years, and it is the doing that tells the real story. Think about what a full Toyota works team would actually mean for everyone else. A car maker of that size does not show up to make up the numbers. It shows up to win. It would pull the best engineers, chase the best drivers, and pour its huge money into beating the very teams it is learning from right now. The same grid welcoming Toyota in as a friendly partner today could be staring at a rival hungry for revenge tomorrow. That is the quiet tension under all the polite official statements. And think about the rivalry it would bring back. Honda is already back as a full car maker, powering Aston Martin into this new era. 2 Japanese giants, old rivals from years of racing history, going head-to-head again at the very top of the sport. For fans, that is the kind of storyline that fills the stands and breaks the internet. For the teams already on the grid, it is one more heavyweight to lose sleep over. Either way, the moment Toyota decides, Formula One does not look quite the same again. The question is no longer whether Toyota is interested. That one is settled. It is when, and in what shape, and whether the next big rule change is the moment the most successful car maker in racing finally finishes the job it started 25 years ago. Because here is the uncomfortable truth for everyone else on that grid. Toyota has already lost in Formula One once, in the most costly failure the sport has ever seen. Companies that swallow a loss like that and walk away do not usually come back, unless they plan to settle the score. As of right now, the badge is on the car, the drivers are in the seats, the engineers are in the building, and the most successful racing company on the planet is sitting one decision away from changing the look of the grid. This story is not over. If anything, it is only just getting started. So keep your eyes on the entry list for the next few seasons. Because if that Toyota name climbs any higher up the order, you will have watched the whole thing happen in slow motion. Subscribe and stick around, because when Toyota finally makes its move, this is where you will hear the full story first.